It's been 8 good years since you came into my son's life. 8! Even a government project doesn't take this long. She placed her hand on Ngozi's back and gently pushed her forward. Please, Bikonu, let this girl assist you. I'm not saying you should leave, or God forbid. Just shift small. Let my son at least have one child before this year ends now. Even if it's just one baby to carry his name. Forgive me. If there's anyone I've offended, please have mercy on me. Just give me a child. Please give me a child. Many years ago, while they were still in the university, there were three of them: Gineika, Sochi, and Chuka. They were always together. Students on campus called them the tripod. But truly, it was Gineika everyone noticed first. She was tall, confident, and beautiful. Her laughter could fill a room like a song. Everywhere she went, attention followed her like perfume. Boys flocked around her like flies on sugar, but Gineika only had eyes for one person: Ifeanyi, her boyfriend who studied abroad. Abeg leave all those broke boys, she would say. Ifeanyi sent me $200 today. Then she would laugh, tossing her braided hair as Sochi and Chuka smiled beside her. Chuka was the calm one, gentle, intelligent, always present. He wasn't flashy or loud, but he was the type that showed love in action, not noise. He loved Ginika. Everyone could see it, except her. He bought her suya when he barely had enough for himself. He stayed up to help her finish assignments even when he had exams the next morning. Ginika liked him, but not like that. Her focus was Ifeanyi, the dream man with dollars and big plans. Chuka, he was just the backup generator she never imagined would be needed. Sochi was the quiet one in the group. Gentle, observant, never seeking the spotlight. People hardly noticed her, but she noticed everything. She saw the way Chuka's smile faded when Ginika bragged about Ifeanyi. She noticed how Chuka looked away whenever Ginika talked about Ifeanyi's promises about wedding plans and her relocation to Canada. However, in their third year, Ifeanyi stopped calling, stopped texting, and sent Ginika a short breakup text. It's over. I can't handle the long distance. Ginika was heartbroken, but Chuka excitedly filled that gap. He loved Ginika so much, bought things for her with the little he had, trying to measure up with Ifeanyi, even when he couldn't afford it. Ginika enjoyed his love, and even though their classmates knew they were dating, it was obvious that the relationship was heavily one-sided. It was not long after, just a year later, that Ifeanyi showed up again, this time in person, apologizing to Ginika and begging him to get back together with him. Ginika was overjoyed. She didn't even give Chuka a second thought before flinging him aside like used tissue and running back to her first love. Ifeanyi, persuasive as ever, convinced her to ditch school and follow him to Canada. Despite her better judgment and the warnings of friends, Ginika, blinded by love, didn't think twice. She packed her bags and relocated with Ifeanyi to Canada. Chuka was devastated. He shut the world out, stopped attending classes, stopped receiving calls, and even deleted the social media accounts and stopped talking to everyone. That was when Sochi stepped in. She didn't say much at first. She just sat beside him and listened. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, their friendship began to blossom. But they hung out, their conversation flowed effortlessly. They discovered they had similar values, dreams, and the same kind of quiet humor. With time, Chuka began to heal. One quiet evening, Sochi turned to him and asked gently, "Do you still love her?" Chuka gave a smile, a tired smile. "I don't even know what I'm feeling anymore." It wasn't long after that that their friendship turned into something deeper. But as their bond grew deeper, so did the whispers. People started gossiping. Isn't that his ex's friend? Sochi no try at all o. She just dey chop leftover like say na jollof rice. Sochi tried to ignore it, but sometimes, late at night, the voices echoed in her mind. She began to feel a quiet guilt, like maybe, just maybe, she was doing something wrong, even though Ginika was no longer with them. Chuka, on the other hand, was finally ready. He had found peace in Sochi, and one evening, under the soft glow of campus streetlight, he reached her by the hand and said gently, I want us to make this official. I want to be with you for real. Sochi's heart fluttered. She had always loved Chuka, no, long before Ginika even noticed him. But instead of saying yes immediately, she did something rare, something strange, something thoughtful. She picked up her phone and called Ginika. Hey, Guinea, I've been spending a lot of time with Chuka, and I know you said you've moved on with Fanny, but I need to hear it again so I can be sure woman to woman. Truly, are you okay if I date Chuka? Ginika burst into laughter. Sochi, abeg, I have Ifeanyi now. You and Chuka can carry on oh. I've moved on. Sochi smiled softly, thanked her and gave the relationship her full heart, this time without guilt. But if she had known that those words spoken so easily would one day become her nightmare, she might have never touched Chuka's hands. After that call, things between her and Chuka moved slowly but steadily. They talked more, walked more, shared more. Chuka would sometimes stop mid sentences and stare at her with quiet curiosity, as if he was seeing her clearly for the first time. One evening, while walking back from a ninth class, he turned and said, Sochi, you're so gentle in a way this world doesn't know how to describe. She didn't reply, she just smiled and kept walking. Their love didn't explode, it grew like a plant, watered by time and kindness. By the time they graduated, Chuka had already spoken to his mother about her. So these own parents were shocked but happy. She wasn't the type of girls boys chase, but this one came back and picked her. That same year, Ginika posted her own surprise online, a pre-wedding photo shoot with Ifeanyi in Toronto. Two weddings, same year, same tripod, now working different parts. Ginika's wedding was a loud one. Imported laces, rented chandeliers, Canada-based DJ. Sochi was her maid of honor. Sochi's wedding was simple. White chairs under a tent, borrowed gele, a choir that sang off key but with love. People talked. Some said Chuka downgraded, others whispered, abeg, it's better to marry peace than marry pepper. Ginika didn't attend Sochi's wedding. She sent a message, I'm still settling in, wish you guys the best. It stung a little, but Sochi told herself she's just busy, she will come around. At first, both couples posted their joys online. Ginika's snowy pictures with Ifeanyi, Sochi's selfies of cooking with Chuka in their tiny kitchen. It looked like everyone had won. But barely a year later, Ginika went silent. No more pictures, no more captions, no more my man, my crown. Then the news came. Ifeanyi had left her stranded in Canada. Rumors said he met someone else. Others said he was doing illegal business and the authorities caught him. Ginika returned to Nigeria quietly, 6 months pregnant. No noise, no husband, just her belly and the bitterness that had started to grow like fire. Sochi rushed to support her. She helped her rent an apartment not too far away from their house. She paid for scans, cooked for her, and even followed Ginika to hospital appointments until Ginika put to bed. One evening, when Ginika broke down crying, Sochi held her and whispered, you're not alone. I'm here for you. She meant it. But the human heart is not always a safe place for certain feelings. And somewhere along the way, Ginika's heart began to turn. At first, it was just a whisper, barely there, a flicker of something unnamed. But as the months passed, she found herself watching them more closely. Sochi and Chuka. They laughed easily. They flowed. They held hands in public like nothing in the world could touch them. She watched as Chuka rose, landing a good job with an international consulting firm, a position that flew him across the world from Paris to Dubai to Singapore. And every time he returned, he came back bearing gifts, perfumes, jewelry, shoes, clothes, just for Sochi. Not because it was her birthday, but because he always said, I missed you during my trips. They weren't just financially comfortable, they were happy, a truly happy couple. And somewhere deep inside Ginika, a small voice whispered, that was supposed to be me. And that's when it began. The slow rot of envy masked by smiles, the hunger to be loved like that, to be chosen the way Sochi had been. But instead of seeking for something new, Gineika started craving what wasn't hers. Days turned into months and months into years. It has now been 8 years since Chuka and Sochi married. 8 long years. Yet no child, no sign, not even a mistake. But sometimes, despite it all, Chuka still loved her. And he showed it in many ways. He would still open the car door for her when they went out. He still bought her gifts whenever he was coming back from work. And every night before they slept, he would gently say, Sochi, I hope you're happy you married me. Even if they had argued. Sochi loved him more for that. She knew many women in her shoes would typically have been replaced, ignored, or even insulted, especially because she had no child. But Chuka, he still held her like she was more than enough. The only problem was that the world around them did not agree. His mother, Madam Ejuro, was tired of waiting. His two younger brothers were already married and both had children. His youngest brother's wife had just delivered twins. There was always a naming ceremony, always a baby dedication, always a celebration that left Sochi smiling politely but bleeding inside. The real final blow came at a family meeting one Saturday. They had gathered at the family house. Sochi sat beside Chuka, quiet, respectful as always. Everyone was eating rice and fried meat, talking over each other. Then Chuka's brother's wife, Ugochi, dropped the comment. Honestly, this our family is just too blessed with children. Twins here, triplets there. Some people just carry grace for giving birth to. But others, she laughed and looked directly at Sochi. Let me not talk too much before someone will say I'm mocking them. I'm not mocking, no. I'm just stating facts. The room exploded with laughter. Even Mama Ejiro chuckled. Someone passed a bottle of malt over Sochi's head like it was nothing. Sochi sat still. Her heart had left the room, her stomach was hot, but her eyes remained dry. She gripped her clothes tightly under the table. Chuka, noticing what happened to her wife, turned to her and held her hand. Firm, she looked at him and whispered, I'm sorry about this. That night, she didn't sleep, not from anger, but from pain that he had no shape, no words. She didn't tell Gineika what happened. She didn't need to. For the past 7 years, Gineika had been Sochi's rock, her backbone, her confidant, her biggest support, advisor, and constant voice of reason. Because her house was close, she always came by. Whenever Sochi was down, Gineika always knew the right words to lift her spirit, like a balm to a bleeding wound. The next morning, Gineika showed up at her door, unannounced, holding a bowl of warm pepper soup and a neatly packed fruit salad. She didn't want to be asked in. She simply walked to the couch, sat beside Sochi and smiled gently. How did the event go yesterday? I hope you didn't let your co-wives get to you with their usual ranting. You know they can be somehow. She placed the fruit salad on the table and held Sochi's hand. Sochi, Gineika said slowly, looking up with gentle urgency in her eyes. I was talking to a friend at work yesterday, and she mentioned the clinic at Lobia. She said softly. Sochi didn't respond, but her silence was familiar. She was tired. Gineika reached out and placed a hand on hers. I know, Sochi. I know. We've tried so many places before, but you never can tell. You just never know which one God will use to answer our prayers. According to her, a lot of women, some who have been trying to conceive for even longer periods than you have shared powerful testimonies about this clinic. Maybe, this could be it. Sochi gave a faint nod. It was the kind of nod that carried more exhaustion than hope. For the past 7 years, she had knocked on every door. Fertility clinics, private hospitals, traditional herbalists, churches, prayer houses. She had done 3 rounds of IVF, each one ending in heartbreak. And still, no child. No answers. Her feet was thin, her body weary, her heart heavy with the constant weight of her mother-in-law's tantrums, blames, and cruel outbursts. So she didn't speak. She simply stared into the air as though searching for strength. However, it was Gineika's presence, unshaken, unwavering, and warm. Whenever Sochi had an appointment in the hospital or anywhere else, Gineika followed. When Sochi broke down crying in church, Gineika held her hand without saying a word. People admired them. Friends that stick closer than blood, they would say, if only everyone had someone like Gineika. Gineika's heart was a house with 2 rooms. In one that she showed Sachi, she was love, loyalty, and compassion. But in the other room, she locked quietly at night. There was jealousy and strife. Because no matter how hard Gineika tried to pretend, she could never shake off one truth. So she had the life and the man she was supposed to have. And now, even without a child, that same man looked at Sochi like she was the only woman in the world. Sometimes Gineika would smile at Chuka and say, I love how soft you are with your wife, sarcastically. And Chuka would grin and reply, when you marry gold, you polish it, you don't toss it away. So she would laugh, not noticing how Gineika's eyes went cold for half a second. But the game was on. Gineika didn't know how or when she would make her move, but she had made up her mind that one day Chuka would be hers again. The pressure was no longer silent. It had now found the microphone. So she could hear it in the way Mama Ejiro greeted her. Short, dry and cold. She could see it in the way the family looked at her belly like it owed them something. Even the house girl had started saying things like, Madam, where should I keep the baby clothes? Then one morning it happened. Madame Ejiro walked into the compound holding a young woman by the wrist, fair-skinned, tall with hips that could cause traffic. Sochi! Mama shouted. The living room was quiet when Chuka's mother walked in, her wrapper held firmly around her waist, face glistening with powder determination. She didn't waste time. Oh. She marched straight to the center of the room like it was her personal palace and pointed at the young woman standing awkwardly behind her. This is Ngozi, she announced grandly, like she was unveiling a trophy. She's the woman I have chosen for Chuka. So she blinked, confused. Chuka's mother continued, unfazed. It's been 8 good years since you came into my son's life. 8! Even a government project doesn't take this long. She placed her hand on Ngozi's back and gently pushed her forward. Please, Bikonu, let this girl assist you. I'm not saying you should leave or God forbid. Just shift small. Let my son at least have one child before this year ends now. Even if it's just one baby to carry his name. She clapped her hands together and shook her head dramatically. This is your womb that has remained locked like CBN safe that will never open. Allow us to try another place now, eh? So she sat frozen, heart thudding as Ngozi smiled nervously beside the sofa. Chuka stepped out just in time. He looked at his mother, then at the woman, then back at Sochi. And without raising his voice, he said, Mama, carry this girl and go back where you're coming from. The woman blinked. Madame Ejiro gasped. Chuka, what kind of charm has this girl given you now, eh? You've been eating her food, drinking her water. Maybe she cooked your brain with okra. Chuka looked at her dead in the eye and replied, Mama, carry this lady out of my house before I do something with both regret. Mama Ejiro threw her wrapper to the side and screamed. She pointed a shaky finger at Sochi, voice rising like she was addressing a crowd. Sochi, you barren witch! I knew from the beginning you were not normal. Her voice cracked with venom as she flung her handbag on the floor for emphasis. You think it's ordinary for a woman to stay 8 years in a man's house and not produce even a cockroach? Ha! Chai! My enemies have danced naked in my compound. Sochi's eyes widened in disbelief. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Chuka's mother didn't stop. She stomped closer, dramatically adjusting her wrapper like a wrestler about to strike. You've tied my son's destiny with your crocodile tears and overcooked spaghetti. Eh? Sochi? She turned to Ngozi and clicked her tongue. My dear, sit down. Sit down here. Don't let spiritual traffic jam delay you too. This is your house now. Sochi slowly rose to her feet, trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of years she had endured in silence. With a fury Sochi had never seen before, Chuka stormed forward, yanked Ngozi off the chair like a rag doll, and pointed a trembling finger at his mother. Mama! His voice thundered. If you don't leave this house this minute, I swear you will regret my action. The room went still. Even the wall clock paused as if afraid to tick. Madame Ejiro's eyes widened for the first time in forever. She saw it, not just anger, but a warning, a boundary. She adjusted her scarf, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and wounded pride. We will go. She began moving towards the door, then paused and turned back sharply. But Chuka, I will never rest, never, until you give me a child like your brothers. Until then, My pillow will remain soaked in tears. She gave Sochi one final glare, hissed loudly like a Nollywood villain and stormed out, dragging a very confused Ngozi behind her. Chuka turned to Sochi, breath still heavy. "I'm sorry, my love." That's all he said. But in that moment, it meant everything. That evening, Gineika came like light in the darkness. She sat with Sochi, held her hand and said, "You're strong. Keep being strong. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Gineika didn't stop there. She came with an announcement, a spiritual retreat for Sochi. "This one is highly recommended wood massage. They say that you will take it in one place, and once you're done with the exercise, you will conceive. I'm not going to give up on you, Sochi," she said. "You are going to carry your child, even if I have to fast 50 days and 50 nights on your behalf." But as days went by, so did Madame Ejiro's terror and antics. One Saturday evening, she called the entire family for what she termed an ancestral cleansing ceremony. She said all the brothers and sisters and their wives were invited. Chuka had insisted that they don't attend, but Sochi went out of respect alone. Halfway through the event, Madame Ejiro called Sochi out and asked her to come kneel before the elders. Confused, Sochi obeyed. Suddenly, Ugochi, Chuka's sister-in-law, said loudly, "We are here to clean the family of delay. And since this delay has been living in our family house for 8 years, let's wash her first." Water was poured, salt was sprinkled. They circled Sochi and chanted as if she was now a curse. Laughter, whispers, phone recordings. Sochi's eyes were dry. Her heart had already left her body. When Sochi got home, she didn't speak to anyone. She didn't even eat. She just removed her shoes, walked straight to the bathroom like someone possessed by silence, and there, with trembling hands, she grabbed her sponge and began to scrub hard. Over and over again, like she could somehow wash away the shame, the insult, the curse she didn't ask for. Her skin turned red, her arms burned, but she didn't stop. Not until her knees buckled and the water ran cold. That night, she didn't sleep in the bed. She curled up on the couch, knees to the chest, her eyes swollen and burning. Silent tears soaked her pillow as she stared into the dark ceiling, whispering to herself. Then her voice cracked. She slid down to the floor and wept into her palms. "Lord, please forgive me. If there's anyone I've offended, please have mercy on me. Just give me a child. Please give me a child." Her sobs echoed in the stillness. A cry too deep for words, a prayer too desperate. And in that moment, all she had was pain. That night, the house was quiet. Chuka had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from everything. Sochi sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes fixed on the curtain that danced gently in the breeze. The next morning, Gineika sat beside her, rubbing her back like she always did. Sochi's voice came out small and broken. "Guinea, I'm tired. I don't know how much more I can take." Guinea said nothing. She just nodded, like someone who had heard this pain before. Sochi turned to her, her eyes swollen and wet. "Please, I need you to help me." Gineika blinked. "Help you? How?" Sachi swallowed. She could barely look at her friend as she spoke the words. "Please, please, save my marriage. Can you help us? Bear us a child. You are the only one I trust. You've been with me through it all. Please," she said, sobbing. The room fell silent. Only the ticking war cloud could be heard. Gineika hesitated for a moment, then slowly reached out and held Sochi's trembling hands, gently like a priestess accepting a sacred offering. Then she pulled her in close, pressing her hand against Sochi's hair and whispered, "Whatever you want, I'll do it for you. I'll carry your child for you." Sochi let out a shaky breath. A tear slid down her cheek, soaked into Gineika's blouse, but Gineika's own heart, it wasn't beating with sacrifice. No, it was dancing. Dancing with a quiet, dangerous triumph. Because what looked like Sochi's broken plea was really the open door Gineika had been waiting years to walk through. The serpent had been patient, and now she was wearing Sochi's trust like perfume. Few weeks later, they made a plan. A clean, perfect, and detailed plan. They meticulously timed during Gineika's ovulation period. Sochi would tell Chuka she was going to visit her younger sister during the weekend. She would leave Gineika to watch the house and help Chuka with food. Nothing suspicious, nothing strange. And while Sochi was away, Gineika would act. We don't even need to tell him, Sochi whispered. If he knows, he will say, oh no, let's just do this thing for us. Gineika nodded like a holy sister. One time, that's all we need. The day came. That morning, so she packed her bags, kissed Chuka goodbye, and lied through her teeth. I'll be back by Sunday. Let me just see how she's doing. She's the only family I have left. Call me when you get there. He didn't suspect a thing. That evening, Gineika arrived at the house in a simple bubu and her scarf. She entered like a helper, like someone just checking on her in-law. She served dinner. They talked, but laughed at his dry jokes, like always. And later, when Chuka was sleeping on the couch, she brought him juice, just one cup of juice. He drank it. The next morning, he woke up confused. His head was heavy, his memory blurred. He barely remembered how he got to the bed or what happened after he'd done. Gineika was gone like a shadow that had done his work and vanished with the light. 2 weeks later, Gineika returned to the house pretending like nothing happened. So she had come back too, full of hope, her heart skipping at every cramp. Then came the message, a pregnancy test. Positive! It worked, Gineika said with tears in her eyes. It really worked. So she screamed and fell to the ground. She cried like someone who had been carrying the sky for years and finally dropped it. She called Gineika her miracle, her angel, her womb warrior, and Gineika, still smiling, hugged her back. But behind the smile was not joy, it was victory. Because Chuka didn't know what had happened, at least not yet. But very soon, the man Sochi was trying to protect would begin to feel something wasn't right. And when truth knocks, it doesn't knock softly. The house was no longer the same. Sochi was glowing without carrying a child. She hummed in the kitchen, smiled more, talked about baby names like she was already in the delivery room. And Gineika, she started walking like a queen. She would arrive at the house before Sochi returned from the market and make herself very comfortable. One day, Chuka came out from the room and saw Gineika stretched out on their living room, couch, legs crossed, wearing his t-shirt like it belonged to her. Oh, sorry, she said casually. Sochi said I could wear something light. This your shirt is just too soft and it's the only thing I saw around. He didn't reply. He just nodded and walked past her. Another day, came into the parlor and Gineika was sitting on Sochi's spot. The exact spot Sochi always called into every evening with juice in hand. She was watching TV, legs on the footstool, holding a half-eaten bowl of ice cream. Chuka, you're back early, she said, pointing the seat beside her. He stood for a moment, then turned away. Chuka noticed. The house was starting to feel like it had two women, but only one knew how to stay in their lane. Sochi, meanwhile, was floating. She had already chosen names. She had painted the soft section of the guest room yellow. When Chuka had asked, she had replied, our baby will soon be here. Chuka didn't think much of it. She loved that his wife was happier and didn't want to stand in her joy. We are in our miracle season, she told Gineika joyfully one evening. I'm going to be a mother, and it's because of you. Gineika smiled, touching her belly, and said, you are the real mother here, Soch. I'm just the container. But the way she carried herself said something else entirely. It was a Saturday afternoon, hot and quiet. Sochi and Gineika had just returned from shopping. Unknown to Sochi, Chuka was inside the room napping, even though he had closed the entrance door and he had parked his car somewhere out in the front. They had gone for baby shopping and the back seat of Sochi's car was filled with soft pink blankets, tiny socks, feeding bottles, and a fluffy white teddy bear that said, best mom ever. They laughed as they carried the bags inside, talking loudly about everything and nothing. I still can't believe it, Sochi said, kicking off her slippers at the door. We are really doing this. We already did, Gineika said, lowering herself onto the couch and rubbing her belly. And look at you. You've gone from crying to glowing. Well, it feels like my child too. In fact, it is my child, Sochi said, laughing. Sochi stood up to unpack the baby clothes and placed them on the dining table. She held up a tiny one. Can you believe I almost cried when I saw this? Imagine, I'm holding baby clothes, she said. I never thought I would be the kind of woman to share her husband, but Gineika, thank you. You saved me. Gineika, sweetly. Of course, that's what friends do. They solve problems, even if it means sipping a little something into your husband's cup to help him sleep through a little miracle. So she paused and chuckled. True, Sha. I practically forced you to do that. Because I know Chuka would never have agreed to it. Then, Gineika added, he doesn't even remember that night. I gave him the juice like you said. I made sure he slept through it. I swear, Sochi, we did everything right. He would never suspect anything. Well, Gineika added, rubbing her belly proudly. He won't care when he sees the baby. After all, it's his blood inside me. Suddenly, a voice came from inside the house. Calm, cold, but laced with something sharp. Both women froze. Then the door creaked open and Chuka stepped out. His eyes scanned the two of them. His wife, teary-eyed and desperate, and Gineika, holding her hand like a savior cloaked in soft intentions. His expression was unreadable. He took a few steps forward, hands in his pocket, then looked directly at Sochi. Sochi, he said quietly, what exactly don't I suspect? His voice wasn't raised, but it pierced like a knife. Sochi's lips parted in shock. Gineika's hand dropped from her slowly as though it had suddenly burned her. He looked between the two women, his gaze lingering on Gineika's longer than it should have. Chuka's voice cut through the room like a razor. What exactly don't I suspect? He asked again. Sochi's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Gineika stood slowly, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. Chuka, you're back. He ignored her. What did you give me, Sochi? What miracle did I sleep through? Sochi took a step forward, trembling. Please, I can explain. Explain now.